welcome to your dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. I'm laughing because what a day. What a day. I've been trying to figure out what I was going to cover tonight, and I couldn't pass this up. What happened today in the legislature in Saskatchewan. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a few things. There's already a group chat going on YouTube and I haven't seen anything else on the other platform, but I think YouTube opens this sooner because I have it scheduled. So people can come into the room and chat. So I already have the usual gang. David, Jonathan is in. I don't know. I think that's it for now. But hopefully we'll have Heather and a few other people that are always on. Yeah, I was like still working up until the minute I started this. So I was trying to respond to some comments. Anyways, I got a bit of a heads up earlier today that that the NDP was talking about me during the legislative assembly. I think it was question period. I didn't think about maybe bringing it up so we could hear what they were saying. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just bring it up on the screen here and see, because you can go live legislative assembly Saskatchewan. Let's see if we can hear direct, and then I can do commentary. This will be fun. So this was today. I think I'll just see what time I got the message from a media person that I know. Frank Vaughn is coming on. I kind of forgot. I'm gonna send him an invite quick too. I've had so many people here. Just give me a sec. We'll bring him in. I gotta find his chat. And then him and I can talk about this. This will be fun. This will be even better. Give me a sec. That just goes to show how busy I was. On Thursday, there's so much happening on Thursday. I'm going on Mark Mitchell's show, Rasmussen report. And then here, I'll send him a quick message. Hopefully. What a day. We'll have Frank join us. That'll be super fun. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find the legislative proceeding. To be honest, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched some of it. And then I think it was around 2:00. Let's see. Here you go. Boy, did I message with a lot of people today. I was having a hard time finding it. Around 2:00. Let's see. Oh, I might not be able to watch it because it's not live. Earlier I could. I'll have to bring it up after. Let's see if Frank is still coming on, if he's seen it. I'll share with you guys the article that was written, though. We'll start with that. Sask NDP pushes Mo to shut down Unified Grassroots Petition for Independence vote. I'm going to read it out. This is kind of funny. I'm going to read Tim's comment. He says, "Threat to democracy is what they said after looking in the mirror." I know, right? I use that term because that's what they were always saying. And yet they are the one doing that. They are the one literally silencing voices or attempting to silence voices. Life is watching from Australia. She says, or he, I don't know if he said he or she. You go, girl, cheering you on from Australia. I was on a show this weekend. Was it this weekend? Yeah, it was Saturday. I had a blast. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I highly recommend you do. Jim Ferguson's show. Let's bring up his account quick. I'll do that after I read this article. There's so many things going on in my mind. So I probably have a lot of new followers from all over the world because of that. So, okay, Rasmussen. Did I say it right this time? Rasmussen. I hope that's right. I say that every time. Okay, Sask NDP is asking Premier Scott Moe to shut down an online petition calling sorry, this is comical. Calling for a referendum on leaving Canada, saying he is giving the independence movement a free pass at a volatile moment for national unity. The petition by Nadine Ness and her Unified Grassroots organization asked the province to negotiate new term for Saskatchewan's relationship, whether inside Canada or as an independent nation. Sask NDP jobs and economic critic Elena Young said Monday, Elena, she's about one of the most extreme of them all. She's like as far left as it comes. Said Monday the premier's hesitation opens the door to President Donald Trump's latest talk of turning Canada into the 51st state. Inside the legislature, Sask NDP Deputy Leader Vicky Moat pressed the issue. Will the premier call Nadine Ness today and ask her to stop trying to break up the country? Moat asked during the question period. Okay, I find this funny because the last time he called me, they gave him heck for calling me. They called me a right-wing wacko, right-wing extremist. I just find this funny now that asking him to call me. But anyways, I'll keep reading. It's just I find this so funny because like they're all putting these types of language in there to kind of sway public opinion. And that's not actually what we're doing as an organization to begin with. But it doesn't matter because they don't care about the truth. They have no qualms completely making stuff up. So Deputy Premier Jim Ryder replied, the province would not silence citizens. Whether we agree with their opinion or not, they have a right to voice it, says Ryder. Members on this side are not interested in separation. Sask NDP says that answer is not good enough. They point to Ness's past access to the premier when Moe spoke with her for an hour in 2021 amidst public health concerns over COVID-19 lockdowns. As evidence, separatists have influence inside the governing Sask party. I find this like comical, but this is what they're saying. Barely 6 months after nearly losing an election, the Sask party is again kowtowing the fringes of his base, says Young. That is a stunning failure of leadership. Ness responded to the Sask party attacks and told the Western Standard, of course they are. They don't like that I'm giving people a voice. If it was up to the NDP, they would bring the entire liberal agenda on Saskatchewan, said Ness. There is no difference between the natural resource destroying net zero liberal agenda and the NDP. I'm going to give a voice to those wanting to stand between the NDP and their insane leftist agenda intent on destroying our province and our way of life. They are the entity trying to bring more of Ottawa onto our province. They don't want the people to have a voice. They want to rule over them instead of serve them. That's what I said. And then he shared the tweet for the petition. So in the article, the petition has collected several thousands of signatures by late Monday. It is similar to a petition in Alberta, where Premier Danielle Smith is lowering the bar for referendums and where tens of thousands have already signed a call to leave Canada. Young warned Saskatchewan's economy would suffer if talk of independence continue. We need to be uniting Canada and building infrastructure from coast to coast, said Young. I actually think it's the opposite. I actually honestly think it's the opposite. We've lost so much capital, so much investment from coming into Canada because of leftist policy. If we're showing that we're fighting back, that actually makes people look into Canada and say, well, maybe they will fight back and natural resources will be accepted again. Anyways, instead, the premier is flirting with radicals who know now I'm a radical who no longer want to be Canadian. Mo has said multiple times that he wants Saskatchewan to stay in Canada. So, for those who don't know, let's go over what it is that we posted. Let's see. I'm trying. Oh, Frank Vaughn is in here. Okay, I'm gonna add him to the stage. Hey, I'm so
how's it
sorry.
going?
I totally forgot you were coming today.
I wrote it on the calendar. That way I don't forget.
And you
The
know
only way to
what?
do it.
I usually have it on there, and I've had so many like requests for shows this week. I forgot to add it on. So I'm glad I saw your text because I would have probably completely scuffed you off. Were you able to hear what I was just reading? The
Yep,
article?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And let me know if there's an echo, if everything sounds great.
No, I think we
And
solved that the last time we did this. I know exactly how to make sure that everything's perfect on my end.
oh, okay. I just don't have my headpiece. Usually I do. If we
You
play a
sound
video,
great.
we'll see if I have to silence it or
Nope,
just mute
you
our
sound
mics.
good. I
David
don't hear
says
an echo
sound
at
is
all.
great. I have an admin now. So David watches your show too.
Okay, so he's
Yeah, but you don't do live shows, right? It's pre-recorded?
I've done 4, I think 4. Yeah,
Oh,
since I've
okay,
been
okay.
back.
So he's usually
They're
on
never
every
scheduled.
one
I
of
just
my
do it when I feel
show.
like it.
Here, I'm going to put you a little bit louder because I can barely hear you. Okay, so I was going to go over with what the petition actually is. Because like I'll see if I can move this. Yeah, there you go. I'll move that a bit. Oh, that didn't quite work. There you go. You guys can see it. So the thing is, our petition doesn't even say we want Canada to completely separate. It doesn't even say that. We're gathering the names of basically people who are not happy with the status quo. And if you read it, it clearly states in there the purpose of the referendum. And we're asking for a referendum, but just so for people to know, a referendum doesn't mean that it's complete separation on the ballot. It's basically a referendum is a question asked to the public. It could be anything, completely anything. So we're asking for the purpose of the referendum on Saskatchewan sovereignty is to empower provincial government to negotiate new terms for Saskatchewan's relationship, whether as part of Canada or as an independent nation. So we haven't set clearly what it is yet because we don't know exactly what we want it to look like. We're going to ask the people first. So I'll get going with some questions. What were your thoughts? You saw this petition, Frank, or the gathering the signatures for the petition. It's important that we do this right, that we don't just rush through this. If we're going to get that many signatures, we need to write it in a way that many people will feel comfortable signing it to begin with. So we need to find out what the people want. That's why we're doing town halls throughout all of Saskatchewan over the next 3 months. The first one will be in Saskatoon on May 25th. But anyways, tell me what your thoughts are, Frank, on this petition, on maybe what direction you think the people are going to go.
I think Saskatchewan has a legitimate beef that goes back 150 years. It goes back to before Saskatchewan joined the Federation in 1905. It goes back beyond the laying of the Pacific Railroad. It goes all the way back to Palliser and Hind when they came out and they surveyed the place, and they set up the circumstances whereby a lot of people would try and farm in the South, do cereal cropping in the South, and fail miserably. Like there's a lot of history here with Ottawa being the principal opposition to Western prosperity. and sovereignty and power and autonomy and all these things. And Mark Carney is a certified existential threat to the Western way of life. I've read his book. I'm reviewing his book. I just uploaded part 5 today. I don't know how many more parts are going to come out of that book. People should be concerned, especially after 10 years of Trudeau. I don't see any problem with having a conversation about what the future looks like, because I think the future has to look like more autonomy at the very least. But why can't we have a conversation about what we want to do? That's democracy. We can have a conversation. And I don't know who Carla Beck thinks she works for. She is competing in provincial politics. If she's trying to gun for a run at the federal NDP, she should get on with doing that. But she's talking about Canada a whole lot. She's not talking about Saskatchewan. And I don't know if she needs a lesson in political math. But Saskatchewan's the most conservative place out of the last election. Like, people did not vote for Mark Carney and his agenda and the net zero agenda here. They voted for something else. So I'm not really sure. And he hasn't even showed his hands yet. So we don't, he hasn't even convened government. I think it's May 26th is when the parliament comes back into session. And we actually start to see what he does. Tomorrow he meets with Donald Trump. We'll see what comes out of that. But why she's jumping the gun and doing this whole rah-rah Canada thing, you should be concerned with your constituents, which are the people of Saskatchewan. And we've been disadvantaged by Ottawa. So I think, to your point, the petition is perfectly valid. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know what she thinks Scott Moe's going to do. Call you up and demand you stop it? Is he going to send the RCMP after you for having a petition? Like, what does she want? And how is that good representation if you can't have a conversation? It seems really outlandish to me.
It is. It's extreme. Like,
Yeah.
and obviously they haven't bothered to even look at it. And they did this in the past. Like, I remember when they were attacking me back during COVID, they called me right-wing wacko without even knowing. Like, I voted for Trudeau in 2015. I'm by no means a right-wing wacko or a right-wing extremist. I was leftist most of my life, but this is just another example of them not actually looking into it. And it doesn't matter. They don't want to look into it. They just want to paint a picture as usual. So we responded. Did you get a chance to see the petition that
I did.
What did you think?
It was great. Your response to it, I thought it was great.
I'll bring it up. I'll just bring it up so people can see it. I just got to make sure.
I think it's more than reasonable. If anything, it gives more respect to her request than her request deserves. I mean, it shouldn't even be taken seriously. And I highly doubt that Mo will take it seriously. Like, why would he? What's he going to do?
The thing is, when we've never done this as an organization, we've never done press release. And for those who are listening, Shadow Davis is watching. Hey, Shadow. For those who are listening, you may not know, Unify Grassroots is an organization, nonprofit organization that I founded during COVID, so that I'm the president of. So recently, we made a move to give a voice to people in Saskatchewan who are upset with the federal government and how it's been treating our province. We want a referendum. We don't have an option in Saskatchewan for a public-led referendum. Our only option is a petition to get a plebiscite, which is a question to the people that they have to vote for. However, it's non-binding. So we don't have that option. But one of the things we want to do is kind of lobby for that option, maybe to be presented. I think it'll be something that's going to be very difficult and look really bad if it comes from the provincial government for a referendum. But I could see avenues being put in place or legislation changed for a binding citizen-led referendum. We don't have it right now, but I'm hoping we will in the future. But anyways, we responded with this. I had to be very professional, but because the thing is, we want media to say our side of the story. And I will just put it out there. Mainstream media has reached out to other people. Like, there's someone who did a petition. I'm not going to say his full name. He wants to remain anonymous, but something Price. I think Price is his last name, but it's not his full name, real name on the petition. I think it's upwards of 4,100 signatures, so 4,600. And they reached out to him, but they're avoiding reaching out to me, probably because they don't want to help promote what we're doing. And he said, "Oh, you should talk. I don't want to talk on this. I just did it to kind of start raising awareness. You should reach out to Unified Grassroots Needy Nest." And they said, "Do you have her contact information?" And he gave them my email address. I haven't seen anything come through yet. But anyway, we figure we'll do this press release, and that'll kind of demand a reporting of some sort. Because when there's two sides and the one side provides the information and they get the other side by whatever, watching the legislature, they have a responsibility to report the other side. So we're going to release this to all mainstream media tomorrow morning. So if they haven't already seen it, but yeah, so I'll read it out quickly. Unified Grassroots strongly condemns the inflammatory and irresponsible language used today by the Saskatchewan NDP in the Legislative Assembly. I'm demanding that Premier Scott Moe personally intervene to shut down, in demanding that Premier Scott Moe personally intervene to shut down our petition for a referendum. The NDP has demonstrated a profound disregard for democratic principle and the right of citizens to express themselves peacefully and lawfully. Just so people know, the plebiscite and referendum, or the Referendum and Plebiscite Act, is legislature that's put there for people to have a voice. It's actually one of the legislation that we have to have a voice as the general regular public. So anyways, the petition in question is not a call for separation. It's a call for democratic discussion. Our objective is to give the people of Saskatchewan a voice in shaping our provincial future, including how to navigate our constitutional relationship with the federal government. This is a conversation rooted in self-determination, fairness, and respect, not extremism.
Let me just pause there. The idea of labeling you an extremist is beyond the pale. You're so polite. You're dare I say soft spoken. You're very eloquent. You're very patient. The organization itself has, I mean, where's the extremist iconography that's on the Unified Grassroots website? You can't find it. It's about as tame as it gets. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't understand how you could even think to label it as extremism.
They do this to silence people, right? They
Yeah.
throw labels like that so that the general public who doesn't know us will be like, oh, maybe they are a far right organization. Well, I'll tell you something. The far right hates me just as much as the far left NDP. I think if you go online, you'll find the hate from both sides. So, but yeah, they do that to silence us, to kind of cancel culture, so to speak. It hasn't worked very well. Not with me anyways. I'm uncancelable, as in I won't let them silence me. But the NDP's attempts to paint our movement as radical is not only disingenuous, but dangerous, equating legitimate democratic action with fringe politics undermine the very foundation of free speech and open debate. It is also an insult to the thousands of Saskatchewan citizens who have already shown their support for this initiative through peaceful, lawful means. Unified Grassroots believes in empowering the people of Saskatchewan. Our efforts are rooted in a desire to protect our provincial rights, resources, and economic well-being from increasing federal overreach. We will not be intimidated by fear-based rhetoric or political posturing. We call on all elected officials, regardless of party, to stand up for the right of citizens to engage in democratic processes without being silenced or vilified. And the thing is, if you go on our website right now, if like you just go on there, there's a video on there that we did last year. And basically we explain what we do. It's all about getting people more involved in our democratic process. So it's just normal for us to get involved in something like this. When you see so many of our members wanting separation, like I was shocked, over 90% of our members, we polled on all our platform, over 90% wanted separation. Even more wanted to join the US. And I'm not saying that's the route we're going. I'm just saying that was the results. So, but it's going to be interesting to see what the people say in person at the town hall. Frank, what have you been hearing? Like, you have a lot of followers and listeners, and you're really in tune with a lot of people. What have you been hearing on the sentiment in Saskatchewan? What are your thoughts?
The status quo sucks. It's the worst nightmare. If it just keeps going the way that it is, that's generally speaking everybody's worst nightmare, and they just want to have a conversation about alternatives and changing that, whether it's within Canada, whether it's independence, whether it's 51st statehood. People just want to have that conversation, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to do so, because the administration that's come in is dedicated to the destruction of our way of life. It's not just oil and gas, it's resource development, but it's also farms. I mean, the thing that I covered today was that in the book, Carney talks about the necessity of relocating 1.6 billion people worldwide from the land, from rural areas into cities. They have to empty out the countryside in order to meet their net zero targets. He writes at length about this stuff, 576 incredibly dry pages, which describe social engineering on a scale the world's never seen. Now, whether he can achieve that or not is beside the point. He is now the prime minister of the country. He's talking very specifically about stranding our resources and saying that the government's going to have to compensate the West. Instead of us prospering and building things, the government's going to print some free money and send it to us so that we can leave all those things in the ground and not do anything in the pursuit of net zero. Things were already bad before we got to this stage. And now this guy's kind of the final nail in the coffin of the status quo. And that's really what it's all about. The status quo cannot continue. And I think Daniel Smith recognizes that. I think Scott Moe recognizes that. And I think a majority of the people in Saskatchewan recognize that. And there's no extremism in trying to have that conversation and start fleshing it out. And I talked to the individual who formed that Change Now petition, because he emailed me too, and he said, "Do you want to talk to the CBC?" I said, "I'm not sure they're going to want to talk to me. They never really seem to want to talk to me." But the fact of the matter is, this is an individual who's just trying to do the right thing, just like you are, just a concerned citizen. Mm-hmm. Just put it out there. The whole reason I picked it up, I looked at his petition. It had 7 signatures. And I looked at his following on Twitter, and I said, I can probably help this guy. I got a following. So I can amplify this and see what it does. And it's took off, not because of me and not because of him, but because the interest is there. There's a real core interest there. So, from what I can see, and talking to people in my local community, it's on the tip of their tongues, and most of them don't even know what I do yet. So there's already people organically talking about it without me putting my finger on the scale. So people know, and we're allowed to have conversations.
Mm-hmm. I talked to him too. We had some really good conversation. We were supposed to talk on the phone today, and I was just getting ready for the show. So I think we're going to reschedule it for tomorrow, or we may chat later on tonight, but I really like the guy. So we had some really good discussions. So we talked about joining our efforts. So who knows, maybe the 4,600, and I haven't seen it, but I think he put a plug in there for people to join Unified Grassroots, and he's going to do a website. Yeah, he's going to do a website as well and put a lot of the information that people are going to want. So that should be releasing soon. I mean, we don't have, like, we can't put all that stuff on our website. So it'll be really great to have that place that we can send people and say, hey, this is where you can grab really good information on what it would look like. So you can kind of make your own decision, put your own questions out there. So yeah, I think he's going to be a really awesome resource. He's actually very well spoken and like writing. He writes very well. So I don't know like his whole story yet, but I'm hoping to find out on when we talk tomorrow. So but
he's not alone. There's thousands of people just like him.
Yeah.
And this is only the beginning. Like he one of the things he said to me was because he was looking for I don't know if you'd call it advice, but he had been asked a couple questions by local when I say local, I mean Saskatchewan media, and they're just like, well, what's your plan? What's your structure? What's your party? How are you going to do it? Like, this is just a disorganized rabble. And I said to him, you don't have to have all the answers right now.
No.
Because right now we're just trying to have a conversation. Do you have to have every answer when you just start to engage in a conversation, or is the conversation about speaking your mind and making some noise? Because right now, that's what I think we need to do. Make noise. Because Ottawa is not listening. They haven't been listening for a long time. And the only way they're going to listen is if we get a little bit conversational.
And that's the thing. Like, we're discussing different things. Like, I'm not dead set in exactly what I want. I do know that I don't like the status quo. I've talked publicly about I don't like the idea of living under the crown. I don't like that England can shut down our parliament. I've talked about how our Charter of Rights and Freedom is basically meaningless. I would like us to have a structure and system similar to what the US has. I just find it's a more fairer representation all around, and there's more checks and balances than what we've got right now. I don't like our Senate. There's so many things I don't like with the way Canada is being structured that's making it so that a very small location is deciding all of what's happening to the rest of Saskatchewan without having the similar type of life or values or just basically the way of life. Like, they don't understand. And I say that as someone who's from the East, and you are too. You're from Ontario. We escaped to Saskatchewan, to the West for freedom.
We came home. We came home. That's how I feel. I came home. Yeah. I'd never been here before I came here. And within the first couple days, I'm like, I'm home.
I've been in Saskatchewan. I moved here in 2009. I first moved out west to Calgary in 2007. I lived in Vancouver for a little bit, but I remember my first week here. It was March 1st. I remember my first day of work was March 1st, 2009. And it was minus like 40 with the windshield. I never felt so much cold in my life. And I remember thinking, what have I done? And then I just fell in love with the place. I've been here. How long is that? 2009. I still don't like the cold though. But Saskatchewan is so beautiful the rest of the time, except when it's like minus 40. But
I don't even mind it because, if you remember in Ontario, it was a freeze thaw. It could never make up its mind what it's doing. When winter comes here, it's winter. And it's just that way for several months. And then when it disappears and everybody's happy again. Like it's a clean winter. There's not mud everywhere. There's not ice everywhere. I've just really fallen in love with the winter. Actually, it's one of the things I guess I was a little worried about, but it's certainly not even on the list anymore of things I'm worried about. I'm more worried about the government and ticks.
Yeah. It's the minus 40. I always say I lived in Vancouver for a bit, and I much preferred Saskatchewan with winter over Vancouver winter because it was raining all the time. I think at one time I didn't see the sun for almost a month, and I don't do well with that. I need light. I need sunlight. And Saskatchewan might be minus 40, but it's sunny.
Yep.
So you just stay inside and you just stand in the sun. The days are a bit shorter though, but yeah. Okay. So
listen to all this extremism, like all this far right extremism that we're engaged in here. I mean, we're terrible people, garbage humans.
So in the petition, I'm just going to show this quick in the website that we did. We talked about more than just a referendum. So, and maybe this is what's scaring the NDP more. We tell people to get more involved in their the democratic process. We say, contact your MLA, get a membership to a political party. And we don't say which one. In your area, it might be the NDP. If that's who your MLA is, join your MLA's constituency association board, attend provincial political party convention. Imagine even if it's just like a slim percentage of the people. I'm going to say this, it's going to be funny, but it's true. If a small percentage of the people who signed the petition was to attend the NDP's political party convention, we wouldn't need much to have more of us than of them. I think they had maybe 150 people. I'm curious how many they had in attendance last one. I remember saying they changed the seating to round tables to make it look fuller. So, but yeah, we say that because that's exactly how you get more involved in democracy. However, keep in mind when you join a political party, usually they have a list of priorities or things that you have to say you agree with. So that might be hard for some people to be truthful and still say that. But anyways, I think if we want, I'll switch back to the other screen. If we want potentially legislation change to have a referendum option that's led by the people, I think this would be an avenue where we get started. We're going to do town halls. The first one is in Saskatoon on May 25th. Maybe you'll be able to come.
Where is it?
It's going to be at Prairieland Park. So
And what time?
At 2:00 in the afternoon. It's on a Sunday.
Prairieland Park at 2 p.m.
Yeah. We're going to have some closer to you too. We're hoping to do Nipawin and stuff too, that area. But we have Mitch from Alberta. I think it's Mitch Sylvester. He's the one leading the charge in with Alberta Prosperity Project. So he's going to come to speak and show us what they've done there. They're a lot ahead of us. Like, what's the expression? Ahead of the game.
They're ahead of us.
Yeah. Way
they're
way
on the
ahead
ground
of us.
running already.
Yeah, and they have been for a while. So they're going to come talk to us about what they're doing and stuff. And we're going to be sharing some stuff as well. And then we're going to try to get what is it that the people want and what is it that the people have questions about? Like, what are the biggest concerns? They might be supportive of this, but they want to know what this would look like or what that would look like. But other than town halls, this petition, I mean, it's going to be a lot of work. We're going to need to educate, inform the public. We're going to need to counter probably the fear narrative that I'm sure going to be pushed. They're already trying to do that.
It's already happening. Yeah, it's already happening. Trying to nip it in the bud.
Yeah. And if we can counter it with, I mean, if we get like 50, 60, 70,000 people sign, that's 70,000 people we can activate to counter the narrative too, right? So, but I myself, I have to inform myself too what that would look like. I reached out to Alberta Institute, and they have an organization, Saskatchewan Institute, as well. I don't know if you knew about them. So they've been putting out a lot of information, research and stuff. So, and then Alberta Prosperity Project has some. So I'm going to kind of study up on that in the next few days. So, but did you see the poll by Angus Reid? I'm going to see if I can bring it up.
Was that the one that looked at Alberta separatism?
It asked Saskatchewan too. And Saskatchewan had a higher rate than Alberta.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
And it polled 34% on Saskatchewan separatism.
When was the poll conducted? What were the dates? Do you know?
It was before the election, but it said, if Mark Carney wins the election, would you? So it was that kind of question. Yeah. Okay. So I'll read this out. The Angus Reid Institute poll conducted from March 20th to 24th, 2025, found that 33% of Saskatchewan residents would vote to leave Canada if the Liberal Party forms the next federal government, either to form an independent country or join the United States. This is up from 20% who supported independence regardless of the election outcome. If the Liberals were to win, support for joining the U.S. specifically rises from 17% to 23%. Only 25% of Saskatchewan residents feel their province is respected by the rest of Canada, compared to a national average of 52%. Despite this sentiment, the majority, 67%, would still vote to remain in Canada. Separatist sentiment in Saskatchewan is notably stronger than in Alberta, which was at 30%, and Quebec at 28% under a Liberal government scenario. So it's quite higher. And this is like with zero campaigning. And there's a lot of people asking about the event in Saskatoon. It's going to be May 22nd at 2 p.m. Prairieland Park. We just need to finalize the deposit. So that's going to happen tomorrow. And
Did
then
you say the 22nd?
The 25th. Sorry. Did I say the
Okay, yep.
22nd? The 25th. It's on a
You did. You
Sunday.
said the 22nd, but that's okay. I had the 25th
Oh,
written down.
sorry.
That's all
25th,
right.
25. And in Saskatoon. So yeah, we've held an events there in the past, and they have like really great capacity for a lot of people. We're hoping we're going to have over 300 people there. So we'll see. And it's going to be posted on our website too as soon as we got everything kind of locked down and confirmed and the deposit paid. The flyer's going to go out. I still have to finalize it, but yeah, that number is high. I'm going to see if we can bring it up. I'd love to commission a poll. Here it is. If we could get some funds to go towards that.
What I think people need to consider too, when it comes to separatism, there's this province called Quebec. They have a wonderful, vibrant separatist movement. They have a federal party that has no intention of ever electing a prime minister. They have debate presence at our national level. They have the Parti Québécois, which is the provincial equivalent, and they've done very well for themselves having that position. Does Carla Beck react every single time Blanchett gets up on stage and gives some kind of speech supporting Quebec sovereignty, or when he calls Canada fake or any of that stuff? I don't know. Maybe she's tweeted about it, but I think she's tweeted 2 or 3 times today about this nascent separatist movement that hasn't even really got off the ground. Why can't the Western provinces advocate for their autonomy while Quebec does the same thing? The provinces are supposed to be largely independent. So why can't we exert some of that? And I honestly think we need to treat these politicians who are coming out and essentially overreacting as just like that. They're being hysterical. There's nothing wrong with having a conversation. Like, you're losing your mind over nothing. And it's something that is baked into the fabric of Canada. The idea of separatism has defined this country for decades. We just haven't taken our little piece of it. We haven't done our own thing and had that conversation out here for some reason. Like, all of our premiers have been federalists. Why is that? Why haven't we ever even had a candidate? And I would actually argue that we have, but that's beside the point. We have to go back a long way to find one that's actually espoused the idea of Western sovereignty. Like, we're between the 2 provinces, there's 4 or 5 million people. That would be bigger than many nations that are out there right now. So why not? Especially considering the deteriorating relationship with Ottawa.
I was just looking at the poll here. They only polled, I think, 125 people in Saskatchewan. The poll was 2,400. I'd like to see more, like, just focus on Saskatchewan. But what I wanted to add to what you're saying is, the Quebec, the double standard in how they're approaching Western separatism compared to Quebec separatism is unreal. Are they painting Quebec separatists as extremists, as radicals, as no?
And this actually might be a good time to remind people when it comes to these polls. There were 5 polls released in the lead up to the election here in Saskatchewan the week before. I believe it was in the last 10 days of the election. And all 5 of those polls had the NDP beating the Sask party in the popular vote by between 3 and 5 points. And we all know that the Sask party beat them in popular support by 12. So that was a 15-point polling miss. And they often say that Saskatchewan's hard to poll, but the fact is their polling results have gotten worse over the last 3 cycles. So can we even trust this? Which might speak to your point, to actually privately fund a poll that might be more accurate, because this could be understating the level of support because the polling houses have a history of understating political support for conservative ideas right here in Saskatchewan, the most conservative province in the Federation.
It's true. Maybe I'm supposed to go on Mark Mitchell's show on Thursday. He's with Rasmussen poll report in the US, and he had said he would poll Saskatchewan. He just have to have the data. I'm gonna reach out to him what that would
He's a
look
good
like.
guy. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, he's really
Really
smart. I really
straightforward,
like him.
very honest.
Yeah, and he they say he's the most honest pollster. He was the only
is.
accurate one during the Trump election. And it's funny, he said something really interesting that really stuck with me, that shocked me a bit. He said when they changed Biden to Kamala, and they were showing this spike in Kamala's support going up, up, and then eventually coming down, his polling showed her at a constant line. It never went up. So, and he talked about how they can kind of, I guess, lie with data. They can fool polls or take some data, but not only that, they won't post them when it's not the results that they want. They'll hold that back. And he said you'd see like a bunch of days in a row where no poll was posted, and then all of a sudden some were posted. But I want to add to the Saskatchewan one had something really weird going on. There was a new polling company, but I can't remember the name. Do you remember that? They came out of nowhere.
In Citrix, was it?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And there were some like weird ties too. I just remember looking and thinking, this is interesting.
But even the forum poll. So the forum poll came out. It was the last one that came out, and it was the one that missed. I think it missed the most. They had a 3,000 person sample size, and they still were a 15-point polling miss. Now with Rasmussen, that guy's not just a pollster; he's an educator. So I followed him in 2016, and I followed him in 2020, and I followed him in 2024, and he not only conducts his own polls, he goes through all his crosstabs in his videos, and he tells you exactly how he derived the data, and then he tells you what's wrong with the other polling houses. So he can take a poll that's showing a 5-point Harris lead, and he can take it apart and show how they're oversampling the left. Now, if you bring that kind of expertise to Saskatchewan, if there's anybody that can solve the Gordian knot of Saskatchewan polling, it's probably him for sure. It's cool that you have a connection with him, because I really admire the guy.
Yeah, when we met at America Fest, I went to Arizona for America Fest, and we ended up sitting next to each other. There was like this VIP room thing. It wasn't like really VIP, but it kind of was. And we just started chatting, and the election had just happened, and his views were going down, and he wasn't sure how to kind of bring it back up. And I'm like, well, I know a bit of marketing, so tell me about what you're doing. And so I kind of gave him some tips, and he went with it, and it did well. And then we ran into each other again at CPAC, and then everyone was talking about Canada. So he's like, I'm going to poll Canada. I'm going to poll the US on Canada sentiment. So if he polled, would America like it if Canada joined? But he didn't word it that way. He worded, if a few provinces in Canada wanted to join the US. And I think it was like 60% of Americans wanted a few Canadian provinces to join the US, which was kind of interesting. So he's going to do more polling. And when I come on his show on Thursday, he's going to talk briefly about it, but it won't be full-fledged results. He's just going to talk about the preliminary results. But yeah, he's very smart, but he's also able to kind of dumb it down, which I find a lot of the time when you have like those analytic minds, they speak analytically, and it's hard for a lot of people to follow. But he has a way of kind of dumbing it down that's really easy to follow. So, and I'm not saying that people wouldn't be able to catch on. It's just in the world of major distractions.
He speaks every man.
What?
He speaks every man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was just looking here. I'm curious if there's going to be any more polls done. Maybe I'll reach out to Angus Reid to see if we were to do one, how much it would cost. I know that Rachel Parker had commissioned one and in Alberta, and it was showing the sentiment really high. But yeah, just think about it. If 33% of Saskatchewan wants that already, I'm just lining it up here for calculating it. That's 396,000 people.
And people don't even know yet what Carney's all about. Like this book review that I'm doing, I mean, 10, 15,000 views, people watching it. Nobody's read his book. Nobody really understands, because it is dry. You want to talk about analytical, you want to talk about boring language. The thing is a very dry read, but that's part of the horror show of it, because the way he discusses the statistical value of a life and the debate over what a life is worth in numeric value, that's one of the warning signs. But like the whole book is it's like a statistician trying to re-engineer the entire world, phasing out the internal combustion engine, letting farmland go fallow, stranding resources, retiring motor vehicles that are on the road today before their life expires. So like as quick as possible.
Did he say that publicly, or is that in his book?
It's all in his book. And the thing that kills me is why. Well, I know the answer. I don't have to say it kills me. The thing that kills me is it's this way, that the media doesn't quote his book and ask him questions, because it's a veritable field. He didn't do the relevant financial disclosures. Nobody's asking him relevant questions about where he's been, what he's been doing the last 10 years, and where he wants to take us. He wrote a book where he tells us exactly what his plan is. Nobody asked. I didn't hear a single media personality quote that book and ask a follow-up question from the mainstream media or from the alternative media, who admittedly had, when they had their opportunity, they had other questions to ask, and I think they were relevant. But the fact is, you have a virtual Bible, this man's Bible, as to what he's going to do. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and very few people are curious about it yet. And I'll tell you, once they start getting educated as to what he actually said. The other thing that bothers me about it is there's a lot of fake memes and stuff that are going around claiming the book says things that it does not say. And I don't know if they're just generalizing to try and dumb it down, but those quotations don't exist. So it's like I'm going through it very carefully and showing people exactly what he says. And the most disturbing thing that came out of today was the 1.6 billion people need to be relocated to cities. That's 56 something million a year that have to be forcibly relocated around the world. He's bragging about having 180 trillion in wealth represented in his organizations. GFANS, which he founded, is 80 trillion. But the people that I can't remember the acronym, but it's one of the sustainable development groups that came out of the Paris Climate Treaty, representing $170 trillion in wealth that's all going to be engineered towards this net zero thing. They've got all these commitments, and it's like, this guy is your premier financial oligarch. In the book, he talks about business, but he only names banking, finance, central banking, and insurance companies. He doesn't talk about Main Street. He doesn't talk about building things. In his world, it's all numbers and spreadsheets. And this is exactly the kind of guy you don't want in charge of your country, or you end up with, like, think about what happened when Stalin relocated 12 million people in Ukraine. That's 12 million. He's talking about 1.6 billion. Like, if they actually got their way, and I don't necessarily think they will, but this is the guy we elected, and nobody really knows him yet. So to your point, 33%, it's only got upside.
Mm-hmm. What I'm wondering is how long he's going to hide who he is, because I watched today. I didn't watch. I listened to it as I was heading. I will say something. I have to say the good and the bad. He's not as hard to listen to as Justin Trudeau. That will be the only good thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But even when he was talking, he obviously has been coached. He's keeping it very PG. He's saying things that sounds almost like conservatives. I'm not saying that's who he is to his core, but that's kind of the messaging he's using. So I could see people being fooled at first. What's going to happen is they're going to start passing legislation that will have dramatic effects on the way we live our lives. But we're probably not going to hear about it until it's kind of already gone through. I'm hoping that it'll be caught. But yeah,
Well, he's really smooth, and one of the things that
he is.
you should pay attention to about him is how he can contradict himself with ease. His body
Mhm.
language will not tell you that he's contradicting himself. He doesn't look uneasy, but he is. He does it in his book, and I've seen him do it in press conferences. In his book, it's replete with examples of him condemning something and then relying on the thing he condemns as virtuous. And it happens over and over again in the book. And we've seen during that one press conference where he agreed to debate Pierre in French, and then as soon as the cameras were shut off, he backed right out of it. Like he can. I said today that Trudeau was a useful idiot. Carney is he's one of the people who does the using. Like he is not stupid. I saw a thing by David Creighton, and he was saying he thought that Mark Carney was a clown, but he's just starting to figure out that he's actually not a clown at all. He's very smart. And the fact is, this man is very smart. He's a genius in many respects, and he can look you in the eye, and his body language can ring while he's telling you a falsehood. That is some dangerous stuff because you don't
And
know his center.
I was talking about this with my husband, Jonathan. Trudeau was super easy to read. He was a narcissist and probably I would say a psychopath. Not a psychopath, a sociopath. But Mark Carney is a psychopath. It's really, so I have blind spots in profiling. It's people who just don't feel anything.
Yep.
So psychopaths. I've said that before in the past. I've said it.
They're
That's
all around you. They don't all turn into
often
killers.
I can usually tell they are that because it's the people that I have a hard time reading, where I'm not really getting much, or the body language doesn't mix. It throws curveballs because it's not authentic. It's not legit. It's and it doesn't fit the normal humanistic patterns. So so my husband and I were saying we're trying to figure out, okay, what's his profile? And I said, well, he's really hard to read. And that psychopaths have no problem lying. Actually,
That's
they
right.
thrive in it. So it wouldn't shock me one bit if that was his person, like his, I guess his personality profile or whatever you want to call it. So, and he fits a lot of the criterias when you look with how he responds as well. So it's going to be interesting. And like psychopaths are not always evil. Like you can have a
That's right.
psychopath
Well,
that will have a really strong, good foundation. Usually they'll be like raised by Christians their whole life. So their version of good and evil is very different. But then you can have very evil psychopaths. And you've seen that in past times with some of the worst of the worst leaders that led to a lot of people dying. And I don't think he's the one of the good. if I'm gonna put it lightly, but I didn't get to many comments, but there's so many people commenting. AJ said, Nadine, you should go on other podcasts, YouTube channel like Juno News, Rachel Parker, Rebel News, Jasmine. I've been on Clyde. Something to get your voice out there more. I think I haven't because I was doing my show every day. It was too much already. But have you been on other news channel like that, Frank? You've been on
oh
Clyde,
yeah,
eh?
yeah. I've been
Yeah.
on Clyde's thing a couple times. Then they did that election megacast thing. I was on there. Been on
How did that
Shadow
go?
Davis. It looked like it went great. Like, I mean, what I saw of it
Awesome.
was awesome, and there was a lot of cool people on there, and it was smooth. It was flawless. I think they said at peak they had 80 odd thousand concurrent viewers. across all the channels because they were sharing channels, like everybody was
Yeah.
simulcasting it. So I think it went fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing more interviews. So yeah, like I'm, doing those things. I'm thinking about getting a StreamYard so I can do more of that on my side, but I haven't
Yeah.
bit the bullet yet and paid.
StreamYard is good for that. You can probably see all the comments there on the side. We have a little gang, I call them. On
Okay, yeah.
YouTube, we have always the same people coming on YouTube, and I love it because it's more than just me putting information out. It's like a conversation.
That's right. That's what a live
Yeah.
stream should be.
I'm going on Shadow Davis on Thursday evening, and then I'm doing my show after. So Thursday I will be on 3 shows, my own and 2 other ones. And AJ, to be honest, I probably should have gotten out. I've been on Rebel News before, but not Juno. Probably should have gotten out there before, but we didn't have like a big cause we were fighting. I guess all over the place we kind of did, but not a big one like this. So I'm going to have to, I think, put myself out there a little bit more. I'm just looking at
I'm just reading through
Charlie
these comments
says,
now.
sorry?
Who's releasing a book? The Hinge, Time to Build an Even Better Canada. Second last comment at 10:15. Is that Carney? Is that his book?
I don't know. His wife released a book. There's like a noise, but I don't know if it's on your end or is it my end? Do the listeners hear it or no?
What kind of
stopped
noise is
now. It's good now.
I put my phone near my mic cable.
The mic. Oh, that's probably what it is. His wife and his public appearance when they voted and interactions totally showed narcissistic psychopathy. I don't know how to say that. Personality.
Yeah. Okay. So Carney's
narcissists, though, are usually really emotional. They're not usually psychopaths. They feel a lot of emotion. They would be what I would call a sociopath, not a psychopath.
So the Hinge is Carney's book, but it's not coming out until July 1st.
Oh, he's written another one?
He pushed it back. Yeah, he pushed it back during the election. So in July, his vision for Canada is coming out. It's amazing, isn't it? How this guy who hasn't even been here for 10 years is all of a sudden our prime minister with all of this vision, and how he rarely had anything to say about Canada. He was always talking about his Irish heritage and how he was a European citizen. And now he's our prime minister. Like, it's surreal is what it is. It's and I thoroughly believe that Canada, 43% of Canada thinks that this is the appropriate path. But I also think that it's the high watermark for their support. I don't think the Liberals can grow from here. I think this is where they're at.
Yeah.
And it all depends on how he plays it. Like, if it depends on how the support comes across the aisle from the NDP, I think he'd rather work with them than he would the Bloc. But the Bloc is indicated as, if you're willing to pay a price, they'll work with you. There is a thought in my mind that the NDP could have a redemption arc where they get a leader that actually remembers the way that they built their party to the strength to become the official opposition was in opposing everybody in the House and not just opposing the Conservatives. Because I'm sure you watched that debate. Jagmeet Singh, every time Mark Carney looked at him, he just jumped all over Poilievre, talking over him, and just he was the most disrespectful clown, and I'm so glad he lost his seat. It's the one silver lining out of the whole thing is I don't have to look at him anymore. But I don't know where they go. Like, do they do the redemption arc, or do they just keep doing what they've been doing, which is rubber stamping the Liberal agenda?
Do you think that they're going to be able to find like a Jack Layton or that kind, or do you think like the NDP now is kind of the more extreme, like they've gone so extreme?
Well, that's the other thing. So in the last 4 years, the Liberal Party led them further and further out to the left. So like they led them out, and then Trudeau was dumped and Carney brought them back to the center, at least in terms of their public relations regime. I'm not talking about reality. I'm talking about their PR that won them the election. and the NDP was just left out there in the far left wing, broke, completely discredited, because all Singh ever did was rubber stamp the agenda. Like, I called him the outraged rubber stamp, because he's online all day, every day, getting ratioed all to heck, but he's complaining and complaining and complaining, and then he'd go in the House and vote with them. And it's like, nobody can take you seriously. And so they had to borrow money to bankroll this election run. So I don't even know how the NDP is going to function as a party. They need a really charismatic leader with some vision to actually drag them back a little bit towards the center and also attack the Liberals. If they don't do that, they might as well just fold the whole thing up and roll it into the Liberal Party. And then Canadians can figure out what to do with that. Like, people are, I don't know if you get this criticism, but talking about provincial politics, talking about separatism, people don't understand how I can still think about federal politics. And it's like, there's two roads running concurrent in my mind: provincial politics and federal politics. And I can be on both of them at the same time, because they're two separate games to play. You know what I mean?
They don't counter each other. Yeah. No, I did you see my interaction on Twitter? I think it was a couple of days ago. I had like your typical CPC, like the CPC can't do no harm. Like, I'm critical I'm a supporter of the Conservative Party of Canada, but I also am critical when I think they're screwing up. I don't put them on a pedestal or think they're the answers to all our problems.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
But why? Because I have a set of core values, and I don't waver from those core values. Can I potentially change them as things go? Maybe, but those are my set of values. And I had one ask, did you return your membership to the CPC party? I'm like, why? Well, don't you think it's counterintuitive to support a separation movement, or being a separatist and being... It's that kind of language.
Yep.
About 30% or 33% of the CPC supporters in Saskatchewan are separatists too. but it just goes to show, unless you have like a wide mindset and to all of the different avenues you can affect change in Canada, you're going to be single-minded to one avenue. But I just, even seeing it, I felt like I was talking to a wall. Like, you just don't get it. I explain it this way. I have God first at the top, my family, my friends, my community, my province, and then my country. And then under there is political party. So those are the avenue as to where I put my loyalty to. But these are the kinds of conversations we need to have. And this person wasn't from Saskatchewan or Alberta. And we're going to see that a lot. People maybe it's because they don't want us to leave, because if we leave, then Canada will forever be a liberal state. Maybe it's just self-preservation at this point. So I don't know, but it's interesting because you're kind of the same way as me.
Well, yeah, I don't see any point not participating in federal politics if I feel there's a viable option. Like, I wasn't there. I declined my ballot in 2021 because I just couldn't support Aaron O'Toole. And I don't judge anybody else for voting in that election, but for me, I couldn't do it. I didn't care to. I didn't like the way that he led. I thought he was more than just weak. Like, he actually flip-flopped during an election campaign. You can't reward that. You can't reward that kind of weakness. Now, with Poilievre, I felt there was a choice. And people say, oh, he was exactly the same. I'm like, on crime and justice, he was not the same. On a number of issues, legal gun owners and the gun bans, he was not the same when it comes to... And there were things that I was critical of. Like, I think we should be trying to stop the killing in Ukraine. That's kind of my thinking. I thought he could have been a little bit more diplomatic in his approach to Donald Trump, in terms of just saying the Liberal Party has absolutely ruined our relationship with the United States. And they're our best geopolitical trading partner, one of the best geopolitical allies this world has ever spit out, and we can't get by without them. This idea that we can just go to China or go to Europe is nonsensical. The stuff that Carney's selling will never work. It's too expensive. There's an ocean between us. There's only so much we can do. And what have the Americans done? They defend us with their army. They defend us with their nukes. They are just waiting on the other side of the border with bags of money to buy our stuff in excess, like $200 billion a year in excess cash comes from the United States into Canada. Donald Trump's subsidy. He calls it a subsidy. It's not a direct subsidy. The media loses their mind, but it, for all intents and purposes, is a subsidy. There's no replacing the United States. So I wish Poilievre had came out and said something to the effect of the Liberals have ruined our relationship with America and we need to do something to fix it. Canada first, rah, rah. He could have done the whole thing, but he could have been a little bit less inflammatory. But look, I'm not in his shoes. I don't know what it's like with all the advisors in his ears trying to figure out how to cut the Gordian knot in this country to win an election. And he did an appreciative, like he did a pretty good job, in my opinion. You know, like the more I think about it, he pulled 7 extra points in, highest CPC showing ever. Yeah, he lost his seat, but the Trump derangement syndrome stuff affects the people of Ottawa more than anybody else. So like it kind of makes sense. They gained in the seat count. I think they did about as good a job as they can. And once again, the Liberals have capped out. This is as high as they go. They can't go higher from here. But as Carney reveals his hand, the CPC has only up to go. So back to the point, I can still talk about the Conservative Party of Canada. I can be critical of them. I can support them. I can do whatever the heck I want. But my real passion for years has been the provinces are the vehicle to enhance citizen power, which you mentioned, you alluded to earlier in this video, how the Americans have a better Republican system, and they do. The citizen is far more powerful there. The Canadian people shouldn't be afraid of having more sovereign power in themselves. The right to recall, the right to propose plebiscites, the right to referendum, the right to ballot initiative, an elected Senate, you know, name your thing. We don't have any of that stuff. They've got all kinds of it. So like, it's not treachery to try and improve things from all angles.
It's not just that they have that stuff. They have an engaged public. Like the amount of people who participate in the democratic processes in the US is like exponentially more than Saskatchewan. We have less than 1% of people vote in nomination races, which is like the election to pick a candidate to be on the ballot for a political party. Less than 1%. In the US, it's upwards of 30% of the population vote in they call it the primaries. So if we can, and that's why it's so easy in Canada for foreign interference. All they need to know is get the community who can vote in nomination races. You don't need to be a Canadian citizen. You can just vote. You can get a membership and vote. And there's so little of us that show up that it's easy for them to organize. We saw that in Saskatchewan. We saw that even in some federal races in Canada. But
look how easy it was.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add to your point. Look how easy it was for Jagmeet Singh to take over the NDP. That was an outside political force that hijacked a federal party. That's how easy it is to do. And, you know, foreign interference is officially state sanctioned here. We cover it up. We encourage it. We leave our borders wide open. We leave our ports wide open. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's true. And Clyde says, you guys are rock star getting good people voted in. He's talking about our organization, Unified Grassroots. We did last year a bunch of town halls, kind of educating people on where you can go vote. Like that's more than the general election, how you can run to be a candidate for a political party and stuff. And we got a ton of school board trustees elected. We encouraged them, they ran. We helped connect them with volunteers and such, and we got a ton in. We helped also in nomination races with the Sask government. So we really got people to get involved. Now I want to switch tunes a bit, if you're okay with that, and talk about Danielle Smith. Have you seen her address today?
I did.
I do have some like a clip here. I'm going to play one that's 3 minutes. Is that okay? And then we'll talk about it.
Go for it. Yeah. This is your show. You do what you want on it.
We might have to mute ourselves just while it plays so there's no echoes. So I'll mute you and then I'll mute myself.
No, one thing has changed. We have a new president. And I will say that in my first conversation with him since the election, he had some promising things to say about changing the direction of his government's anti-resource policies. However, Albertans are more of a actions speak louder than words kind of people. So while I will in good faith work with Prime Minister Mark Carney on unwinding the mountain of destructive legislation and policies that have ravaged our provincial and national economies this past decade, until I see tangible proof of real change, Alberta will be taking steps to better protect ourselves from Ottawa. As a start, I will soon appoint a special negotiating team to represent our province in negotiations with the federal government on the following reforms requested by our province. We hope this will result in a binding agreement that Albertans can have confidence in. Call it an Alberta Accord, if you will. First, Alberta requires guaranteed corridor and port access to tidewater off the Pacific, Arctic, and Atlantic coast for the international export of Alberta oil, gas, critical minerals, and other resources in amounts supported by the free market, rather than by the dictates and whims of Ottawa. Every province in the country, other than Alberta and Saskatchewan, have coastal port access, and no province needs it more given the size and value of our resources. This will benefit all Canadians to the tune of trillions of dollars of economic activity, including billions for First Nations partners. Second, the federal government must end all federal interference in the development of provincial resources by repealing the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, the oil tanker ban, the net zero electricity regulations, the oil and gas emissions cap, the net zero vehicle mandate, and any federal law or regulation that purports to regulate industrial carbon emissions, plastics, or the commercial free speech of energy companies. These laws are destroying investment confidence and costing Canada and Alberta hundreds of billions in investments each year. They need to go. Third, the federal government must refrain from imposing export taxes or restrictions on the export of Alberta resources without the consent of the government of Alberta. Frankly, all provinces should be given that same respect for their resources. And fourth, the federal government must provide to Alberta the same per capita federal transfers and equalization as is received by the other three largest provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. We have no issue with Alberta continuing to subsidize smaller provinces with their needs, but there is no excuse for such large and powerful economies like Ontario, Quebec, BC, or Alberta to be subsidizing one another. That was never the intent of equalization, and it needs to end. If these points can be agreed to by the federal government, I am convinced it will not only make Alberta and Canada an infinitely stronger and more prosperous country, but will eliminate the doubts a growing number of Albertans feel about the future of Alberta in Canada. No, one thing has changed.
I'm going to unmute you now. I don't know if it would echo, but I just wanted to be safe. What are your thoughts? I watched the whole thing, but that's just a small clip of it. What are your thoughts on the entire? Did you get to see the whole thing?
Oh yeah, no, it's a hell of a list. Good luck getting the Liberals to agree to it, and good luck if he actually does agree to it. You have to hold him to it, because maybe he agrees to it now because he has a minority government, but if he gets a majority down the road, maybe he reneges. Like, he was on the campaign trail and he specifically said he would not repeal the anti-pipeline bill. She's also talked, she inserted a phrase there, the commercial free speech of energy companies. I might be getting one or two of those words wrong, but commercial free speech, which is a really important one, actually. Her list of demands is pretty weighty. There's a lot there. And she said at the end, if he can agree to these things, which means all of them, then maybe we have something to work with. The equalization thing. I mean, when I first heard that, I just thought, well, that's fuel for the fire in Alberta. That's fuel for the fire in Saskatchewan, because we pay too. We're subsidizing. I think Saskatchewan has lots of problems of its own. We don't need to be sending money anywhere else. We have a small tax base and a very big province. You know, I think it's 4 people per square kilometer. And if you take the cities out, it's 2 people per square kilometer. It's one of the reasons I'm here. It's beautiful. It's a lovely place with lots of countryside. These are things that I don't think any federal politician, including Poilievre, I don't think is willing to change. Some of those things he would, but on equalization, I don't think Poilievre would touch it. There's also the one of the reasons Quebec gets paid is because their hydroelectric generation is exempt from the equalization formula. Shouldn't be that way. If it was included,
I
they
didn't know
wouldn't
that.
get the money that they get. So like these are big things that she's asking for. I seriously doubt the federal government's going to give them to her. But like you and I were talking a little bit the other day about how this is building momentum. Things aren't going to happen in the next week or in the next month. They're going to happen over the summer. They're going to happen into the fall. She's mentioning 2026 for a series of questions on a referendum in Alberta. So that's kind of giving you the time frame that we're working with here, right? So this opening salvo from her it's very strong, and it's going to be very hard for Ottawa to even try and meet. They're not going to. So we'll see.
I have a theory. I guess it's my husband's theory. And I don't know if it's based in reality, but it's just a theory nonetheless. Remember, my husband's very, very politically informed, like he politically involved. Like I think he went to a separatist like conference or rally or something when he was like 14 years old. Like so, and he's been involved in politics. He's the one that's kind of taught me a lot of this stuff that has occurred in the past. So when I hear about something that's coming up that's like from the past, I asked him to explain it to me. Anyways, he said, I don't know if you've heard about this, but way back when she was the leader of the Wild Rose Party, she crossed the floor. And back then, it was told that one of her closest advisors that was advising her all the time was Preston Manning. And he was the one that told her to do that move, apparently. Look, don't hold me to it, but this is what my husband's saying. He said Preston Manning is still very much involved and very much advising her. He was brought in during the after COVID to evaluate the COVID response and all of that. And my husband thinks he's still very much advising her, and my husband thinks that Preston Manning is a separatist. So maybe this is the avenue to go, but I don't know like a whole lot. I did talk to him a couple of weeks ago. He wrote that article just before the election, basically warning if you vote for the Liberals, it's going to probably go towards separatism. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is plausible?
On Manning being a separatist? Maybe Preston Manning looks like everything looks different in rear view and with hindsight and with perspective. So he could probably look back on his career and the building of the reform movement and then the subsequent Canadian Alliance and then the subsequent joining of the Canadian Alliance with the PC party to get to the CPC party and looking at the decades rolling by and thinking to himself, if the reform movement had just been a separatist movement, maybe we would have got a lot further back then and we wouldn't have wasted so much time. I don't know. I'm speculating and spitballing. Yeah. He's the only man who knows his mind. But he has a lot of perspective. He's lived a long time. He's seen a lot of things, and he's still politically active to this day. So it wouldn't surprise me because I think the only vehicle for real change is if separation or some type of sovereignty is the sword of Damocles hanging over everything. It's worked for Quebec. It should work for us. We're getting screwed because we don't play this game. We need to start playing the game. The provinces are supposed to be sovereign, except for a few delegated powers that go to the federal government. They've been encroaching for a long time. They don't control the resources under our feet. We should be able to develop them and sell them to whoever we want. And that's and this idea that more centralization for the federal government, because Carney campaigned on this idea of lowering trade barriers between the provinces and creating a more centralized, cohesive unit. Quebec's never going to let that happen. They're never going to let it happen because, and it cuts to the very nature of our federation is that the provinces are supposed to be autonomous. That's why those barriers exist in the first place. The problem isn't the autonomy. The problem is the provinces have forgotten to take it. The only one that's doing it is Quebec. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's an existential threat to Ottawa, and I think Carla Beck's behavior, while reprehensible, is kind of predictable. You're trying to empower citizens, Nadine. So you are an extremist because you want citizen empowerment. And that is extreme to these people. That's a juxtaposition to what they want, which is more control and top-down technocracy and all these things that Mark Carney and the NDP espouse. So, yeah, if you're for decentralization, if you're for autonomy and sovereignty, don't expect an easy ride, but don't let it discourage you either. Like we all have to keep going forward regardless of what people say about us.
I've said to my husband, and this is in the spirit of like, I always wear my heart on my sleeve. But I said to my husband, like, I've fought the fights before where we think we're like the minority voice, but it turns out we're the majority, right? I did it during COVID. I did it, and I say the things that you're not allowed to talk about, and I give a voice to the people who they say they can't have a voice. And I guess this is what we've done as an organization, but some reason this fight feels a bit different. I think, and it's not that I'm discouraged. It's not that I'm dissuaded, or it feels a bit different because I realize there is no way I can do it alone. There is no way our organization can do it alone. If we're going to win this, if we're going to push, we're going to need every single person out there to be willing to help. And I say this as someone who's noticed in the last 6 months, it's just people just being less and less engaged, and not just with our organization, just as a whole. I think the people have become so demoralized, and maybe this will be like the thing, like during COVID, everyone was fighting, right? Because they were physically feeling it, physically in it. And I think they do, but they've gotten so used to it. And I'm hoping that if I can get better at something, is get people motivated to actually do something, or maybe give direction as to what that is. Maybe share the petition. join our organization, sign up to volunteer. But yeah, this one is one where I feel a little bit over my head. And yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think the mainstream of politics has to catch up with where we are mentally, and I think it will. I also think events are going to motivate people more than maybe the words. What you're doing right now is laying some groundwork. You're laying the bricks in the road, and the people will come and walk on it. Like, I know that's trite. I'm basically saying if you build it, they will come. But that's exactly what's happening here. Yeah. We're a little bit ahead of the curve because Carney hasn't even convened Parliament yet. The trade war with the United States hasn't gotten rolling. If it's even going to roll, maybe he'll fold. We don't know. We haven't seen anything. He hasn't even laid a single card down yet. That's why I think Carla Beck, she's ahead of the curve too, because she is fighting the war that's going to happen 6 months from now. She's not fighting the one today. She's trying to nip you in the bud and trying to nip sovereignty in the bud before it actually catches on. And it will catch on. It is catching on. You've seen the Angus Reid poll. You're not going to have to carry it alone. I think what Unified Grassroots can do, because you have all the people and you have the ability to gather the signatures and gather the addresses and build that forward. But it's not a sprint. This is like you're jogging. You're going at a pace because the sprint hasn't started yet, and you've got a bit of time. And as much as I don't want to tell people they have time because that'll lead to them not being motivated, they should be motivated now, because now is the time to lay the groundwork, because events are going to transpire that build that momentum. You're not going to have to build the momentum because the momentum is going to find its way. I can feel it in my bones that things are not going to stay the same. And I've been saying this for a long time now. One of the reasons I came back is because I could see in September that something big was coming this way, change like we haven't seen for 100 years. Nobody alive has experienced the historic moment when it comes, and we're living in it, but we haven't hit the tipping point yet. We haven't. One side of the seesaw hasn't tipped over the fulcrum yet. And I don't mean to be. There's a whole reason I picked that name for the show, because you can see the balance changing. So you're not going to be alone. The momentum will come, and I think we're going to need mainstream politics. And I think you're seeing that. You can hear it in what Danielle Smith is saying. She's saying that she is dedicated to Canada and she's before Canadian flags and all these things. But the list of demands that she is issuing is fundamentally opposed to what Ottawa wants to do. And you can see it, like Scott Moe and the Sask party in some ways, they have a lot of vision because they did the Saskatchewan Firearms Act. They did the Saskatchewan Revenue Act. They've taken a lot of steps already. They kicked those federal officers off of people's land and threatened to arrest them, and they backed off. He unlawfully stopped collecting the carbon tax. I say this all the time. That was a big deal that should have got more attention because that was an unlawful, almost Riellian rebellion, albeit paper side. There wasn't guns involved, but he won. Like, he won that battle. No, they couldn't do anything to him. So he's actually in some ways done more than Smith has, but he's not, he's not that big boisterous public figure. He's a big man, but he's kind of soft spoken,
He sucks at communication versus you watch Danielle Smith. And I'm not saying that like to put him down. It's just
it's one of the things that I found endearing about him before I lived here.
Really?
Because I watched Saskatchewan. Yeah, for sure I did. Because this is a guy, when he poses for a picture, he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing there. Like he doesn't have a politician's smile. The man can't fake smile to save his life. But when he actually laughs, it's a beautiful laugh and his face lights up in a beautiful smile. But when he poses for a picture, it's like he doesn't know what he's doing. That's wonderful. Like that. It shows that there's a genuine spark in there. Not a lot of
yeah. I just find he like plays this role and says things, but I've seen him speak off the cuff at like events where it's not recorded, and he's actually quite good. But then when they put a screen, I'm like, oh,
I see what.
Oh, sorry.
Just
go ahead.
What Leanne Taylor is saying there is poignant. Mo still needs to own what he did during COVID. Apologies need to happen.
Yes.
COVID aside, like every single place in Canada went through the exact same experience. And, it's not to whitewash what happened there, but in the time since, there's been some really good things come out of that government.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're talking about
politics. I wish
you
would apologize, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, it would be nice, but I think you've come about as close to that as you're ever going to get when it comes to politicians. Like, they're not very good at ownership, because then the ownership creates liability, and liability creates problems. And there's still a whole half of this. I mean, 87% of this province had experimental uptake. And the vast majority of people supported the mandates even here. So it's the whole country was in.
I don't think I don't think they're going to address it. But
no, I don't either.
I don't know. I keep hearing rumors that he's leaving and that there's going to be like a leadership race. Have you heard those rumors?
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know if it's just rumors. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But if he was to leave, I don't even know who we would support. But we'll see. We'll see if he doesn't want to do a referendum and Mark Carney does come down and he doesn't push back. Well, maybe we will replace him. We'll show up at the AGM at the leadership review and put someone who will push back. I'm hoping he will, but again,
just reading what Louise is saying there. I think they all swore an oath to comply to health authorities. I think everybody did. No political leader wants 10,000 deaths or 20,000 deaths on their hands. And at the time, there was such a zeitgeist. These people were late to the game, because originally the politicians were saying there was nothing to worry about. It's just a cold. Masks are dangerous. We can't stop flights from China because if we stop flights from China, it'll be inconveniencing the Chinese. It'll be a violation of their charter rights, even though they don't have any because they're not citizens. Like, that was their messaging. We had Doug Ford in front of Chinese food, all-you-can-eat buffets saying, get out there and eat your food. Like, they did this whole thing. When they flipped their script, I think a lot of them were genuinely worried that they were going to have the liability of all those lives on their hands. And so they all just started following along. They got caught up in the whirlwind of it. And I'm not trying to justify it. It's just, it was a hell of a ride. We all went through it, you know,
And
like it divided families.
the public was demanding for it, and politics is downstream from society. When you look at that time, the public was demanding that. But at the same time, how much of that was fabricated or made us believe that, and how much of it was reality? Sometimes I wonder too.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because,
I
like,
don't
at
know.
first-
I guess we'll never know. I'm putting on my conspiracy hat on. But anyways, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
want to keep chatting, but I haven't been sleeping good either. So I don't know. My sheet's still connected. I have a grounding sheet that usually I've talked about it on the show, not to promote it. I think I ordered it off a Facebook ad or something, but yeah, I'm tired. And I need my mind fresh tomorrow. I'm probably going to be dealing with media all day. So, Frank, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm so sorry for forgetting.
It's okay.
Do you have any final words to say to the viewers?
No, I think you're all great. I think Clyde is actually AI, because he's everywhere all the time. So Clyde, I'm watching you, buddy. I know he's not.
Yeah, I
AI.
should have give a shout out. I said hi in the comments. Clyde and Shadow Davis were watching.
Yeah, and just to you, you'll do fine tomorrow. I'm sure you'll have. I can't imagine a better person to be fielding media phone calls. Like you are the perfect PR person for that. And I know some people would say PR is kind of an insult. I mean it in the best possible way. You're hard to hate.
Offended.
So go talk to the CBC. You're the one that should do it. If they talk to me, I'm probably going to say something stupid.
I actually don't mind talking to them. I think a lot of the time it's just they have their own perceptions, right? And if we don't engage, we'll never be able to break those perceptions. And maybe I don't mind as much because I used to be like one of them. Like I used to be someone who thought that like they do. So Clyde is giving us a bunch of stats. Okay,
I'm
let's
telling you, he's AI. Look at him. Artificial intelligence. He's just going off in there.
Okay, he's saying, would you be in favor or opposed to our own province joining such a Western separatist movement? Are you talking about BC? And then he says 31% strongly in favor, 29% moderately in favor, and 16% moderately opposed, and 32% strongly opposed. Wow, it's higher for joining the separatist movement, right? Because it's 29% and 31%. That's 60, right? It's late. Yeah, that's 60. Clyde, where is that?
January 2019. I don't know what province he's talking about.
Yeah, I'll be great. I'm not worried about media. Like I don't get nervous. I don't get nervous when I go on people's show or when when there's like I was on Jim oh, I shouldn't forget Ferguson's show this weekend. It's not that. It's just I want my mind to be running 100%. Because they're going to try to trip. They're going to try to paint a narrative. I want to be sharp. And
then you better go get some sleep.
Yeah, I am. Okay, Clyde, you didn't say what that was from. Okay, so
his algorithm's broken.
He's not using AI to do comments.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I'm
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
He's everywhere. He's the guy that's everywhere, right? I'm just having fun.
That man is persistent.
Yeah.
That's why he's got such a big show. And
he's not one of the guys using bots. I can tell you that.
No, he's not. He's not.
There are some people out there who do that. He is not one of them.
we were talking the other day, and I was saying I was trying to figure out, okay, do I do my show at the same time all the time? Because my kids are in such different schedules. Sometimes I have to drive them to school. Sometimes they have school. Sometimes they don't. And so I do the show, but it's never like sometimes it's at the same time, but sometimes if things come up for my family, I have to move it back. He's like, just make it happen, Nadine. That's what I do. But at the same time, like I'm the main caregiver for my 4 kids. So it makes it hard to just make it happen. But I
Yeah.
want to give him a shout out for being super persistent. Uh, Oh, those are Sask numbers. Hey, I'm going to send you a text, Clyde, after this. I want you to send me the link to that. I want to see that. Because if that's the case, the NDP's the fringe or the radicals, extremists, whatever they want to call it.
They kind
That's
of
over.
are. They're
Yeah.
not the NDP of Romano, I can tell you that.
No, they're not. But I wouldn't even know what that is because I wasn't political back then. So,
Saskatchewan premier in the 90s.
okay.
The last
How do
time the
you know all
NDP
that
was in
stuff? You've
office.
been paying attention to politics all this time?
Pardon me, have I been?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. I'm new.
Well,
I'm new.
I'm a junkie. I've been a junkie since I was a kid.
You're like my husband. That's why you guys knew each other on Twitter before.
Yeah, a long time ago we did, yeah.
A long time ago. Okay, we're gonna go. I gotta go to bed.
Say hi to him
Have
for
a
me.
good night. And I'll have you on soon. I really enjoyed this.
All right.
But okay, see you guys. And
Yeah.
I'll let you go down and I'll do the closing thing.
All right, Nadine.
Yeah.
Take care and thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I'll be back on Thursday evening. So again, Thursday I'm on 3 show. So you'll probably see the streams occurring throughout the day. If I get a link, I'll share them so you can watch it. So yeah, I'll be on with Mark Mitchell on Rasmussen Report, and then I'm on Shadow Davis's show at 7, I think his time. It might be 7 my time. I'm not sure. And then I'll have my show probably around 9 o'clock. Sorry, this one was a little bit random, only because it's my fault. I forgot. I asked Frank to come on. But it worked out great. It was a blast. And then, so if you don't already like, subscribe, do all of the things, and I'll see you guys at the latest Thursday night. See you guys.